thanks for inviting me to the session. I'm a professor at the University of Tennessee, currently visiting scholar at Department of Food and Resource Economics at Korea University. Thanks for chairing and organizing this session with Dr. Seong. And this session, this presentation probably is sort of a follow-up on the previous presentation, which was working on the chemical engineering technology for mitigating emissions. This one is the economic way of mitigating emissions, particularly carbon dioxide. And this project is funded by USDA Africa program. So we all know and agree there is a climate change, and there is a little bit of dispute, at least for the academia. We kind of have concurrence of this climate change is human induced, partially at least. So we understand carbon dioxide is one of the major parts for climate change, and we need to do a lot of work like Dr. Sheng was doing to mitigating chemical engineering way to greenhouse gas emission, including carbon dioxide. But there is another dimension, economic way of solving the problem as well, and this is one of the case if you haven't seen this kind of research before. So economists call this phenomenon where carbon sequestration by forest land is not really compensated by any means. So you don't really buy forest land and pay premium because the forest land has additional carbon sequestration capacity. So market doesn't really recognize this kind of positive externalities. Therefore, we call this, economists call this market failure. And they come up with this idea of a payment system for ecosystem services, such as forest carbon sequestration. And this is one of the examples how we adopt this kind of system. One of the major issues of payment system for ecosystem services is cost efficiency, because always budget is limited, and we want to maximize and optimize the benefit of how much money you can basically use. So there is a lot of literature talking about targeting, spatial targeting using optimizing benefit and cost-benefit ratio. And there is also a bunch of literature talking about economic impact of money itself, because this is money directly going to forest landowner, in typically rural area, and particularly in developing country, this becomes significant source of income. Therefore, economic impact is also one of the concerns. So these two branches of literature, one talking about efficiency, the other talking about economic impact, has been out there for a while. And we are trying to sort of incorporate these two ideas. Okay, how we incorporate both sides, efficiency matter as well as economic impact matter, and try to come up with some kind of optimal solution where we can target the area where payment can be efficiently used as well as maximize their economic impact. So that's basically the objective of this study. This is particularly focusing on central and southern Appalachian of the US. As you can see, Appalachian region is as low as south as Alabama here and go all the way up to the Maine. And we are focusing particularly on central and southern Appalachia, which accounts approximately about 20% of forest area in the entire United States. So this is basically significant forest region. US is focusing on particularly on this ecosystem, not just carbon sequestration, but biodiversity and other ecosystem services. So we're going to use county level data. So this is economic study. So this is relatively macro compared to other kind of chemical engineering study. County level and come up with a spatial target. So the objective basically is given some kind of budget, how much we need to target in different places and by how much. So we employ basically 3 different models. First, land use model. Land use model defines opportunity cost of keeping forest land relative to crop, pasture, and urban land. So forest land is competing with these 3 different land use, and we are trying to figure out what's the opportunity cost keeping or sustaining forest land using that land use model. So that model itself is not going to solve the problems. We need to convert those areas we can sustain using additional payment to forest landowner and convert it into carbon, right? So that's where carbon simulator is coming in. So carbon simulator, from my point of view, is simply a translator from land use, forest land use, into carbon storage. So given different location, how much forest land can be saved with different payment, and then we basically convert that into different level of carbon storage. Okay. So we have this carbon benefit using how much money given, how much carbon can be saved in different county, okay? And then we need economic impact. The economic impact, we use input-output analysis simulator. Again, this is simulator called implant. So what does implant do is you have some kind of input as direct payment into forest sector, and we try to come up with how much economic stimulation or economic impact does it have using those payments. So this simulator has different economic multiplier underneath. So depending on those multiplier, you would have different impact. So say you have $100 payment to the person in Seoul versus person in very remote area in rural area in Korea, the economic impact would be significantly different because Seoul would have a lot bigger economic multiplier, right? So you have these 2 models, basically 2. One, you have carbon benefit based upon the opportunity cost, and you have economic impact based upon economic multiplier, right? So payment is given, you calculate how much carbon can be stored, you also calculate how much economic impact that will have. So given the same payment, that is used for the carbon as well as economic impact, right? Then, using those output, we do one more thing. We do multiple objective linear programming. So you have 2 objectives. One is maximizing carbon given certain budget constraint, and we also want to maximize the economic impact given same budget constraint. Right? So given these dual objectives, we try to come up with spatial target where we need to allocate those budget and how much. So this land use model basically estimate marginal impact of forest land in relation to other competing land use on how much forest land you can sustain. And then we calculate those marginal impact and convert those land using terrestrial ecosystem model, which is operated by Oak Ridge National Lab using supercomputer. So this requires a lot of computation because I'm an economist, so I don't really know the detail of this simulator, but you can sort of imagine how much you need to incorporate. You need to understand soil, you need to understand types of trees, species, elevation, slope, all this stuff, and then basically simulate how much carbon can be stored in different locations. And this is done by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer resolution. But obviously there is a gap between economic data and carbon data. We had to sort of aggregate at the county level at the end. Then input-output analysis is doing same kind of simulation, but doing for the economic impact. So this is not carbon impact, this is economic impact. So given how much money to the food sector, how much gross domestic product you can generate, in our case, at the county level. And then using those information, we do a multiple objective. Here we only have 2 objectives, so dual objective, and comes up with a budget, a location of the budget, and where. So first output, this is significant because this dictates our payment system, whether or not this entire project is feasible. Because if we don't have positive and significant impact of forest return relative to competing land use on forest share, another way of saying is, if we don't have positive impact of money given to forest landowner that basically encourage forest land keeping their land, then we don't have this system, right? But fortunately, we have this marginal impact, which means you have $1 per hectare per year payment for each forest landowner in the county. You can store additional urban forest area by 0.0006%. So this is dismal at this point, but if you use, say, $100, $10,000, then this forest share keep increasing. So if you see, this is sort of aggregate supply curve in a way that you increase dollar to forest landowner, how much forest you can keep instead of converted to, particularly in this case, is for urban land. Right? So you can sort of understand, given this much money, we can sustain additional forest land by this much. And there is obviously cap here because there is a feasibly, there are some kind of forest land, how much, whatever maximum amount of forest land you can increase, right? Okay, given those simulation, basically simulation for carbon and simulation for economic impact, you have carbon efficiency. So this is, at this point, this is not optimization output. This is just efficiency output between carbon versus economic. So here you have metric ton of carbon stored based on additional dollar. So this is $1. So given $1 payment to forest landowner, how much carbon, metric ton of carbon, forest carbon you can store. So darker area shows carbon efficiency being higher, lighter area shows efficiency being lower. And then this figure on the right-hand side is showing economic cost efficiency, meaning given the payment amount, how much economic impact you would have. So darker area shows, for example here, $2 per $1 given as money to the forest landowner. The lighter area shows lower economic efficiency. Okay, so this is separate, right? So this is carbon efficiency and this is economic efficiency. And we are now basically running the multiple objective optimization model. And to do that, we need to have some kind of weight between these 2 objectives. So carbon cost efficiency, one objective, economic efficiency, the other objective. policymaker can determine, okay, how much weight we would have. So this simulator allows that kind of implementing the policymaker's decision making between these two objectives. So first thing you're looking at right now is when you have 100% weight on carbon efficiency. So this is more or less single objective for optimization. And then I will press this button, you will see the weight on economic efficiency is keep increasing, and you will see how the distribution of budget to each county changes. So as you can see that not only allocation of the budget changes, but distribution itself changes significantly. So if you look at 100% on carbon efficiency versus 100% on economic efficiency, you see significant difference between these budget allocation. So you see a lot wider distribution of budget, optimal solution, when you have carbon efficiency, and concentrated a lot smaller county when you have economic efficiency as objective, and those are in between, right? So we're trying to understand why this would be the case, and look at the distribution of this carbon efficiency versus economic efficiency. And you can sort of see that carbon efficiency is really, distribution is relatively small, narrowly distributed. But economic efficiency is spread widely. So which basically means economic efficiency is on one particular county versus the other county is fairly big, but carbon efficiency is relatively narrow, distributed narrow. Therefore, optimal solution shows that kind of pattern. So using this each efficient point, we did this simulation for 9 different times for 3 different budget scenarios. And this one right here, this is the efficient frontier between carbon storage and economic impact. So each point along the line of frontier is all efficient with different weight between these objectives. So for example, A is 100% efficiency, B is 75% carbon efficiency, C is 75 economic efficiency, and D is 100% economic efficiency. And why this is important? If you think about trade-off between these scenarios. So let's take a look at the trade-off between A and B. So if you want to move from A to B, you lose relatively small carbon to gain additional economic impact of this much. But from C to D, you lose significant amount of carbon to get additional economic impact. If you quantify that, you would have trade-off. To get $1 more of economic impact, you only lose 0.058 tons of carbon from A to B. To get same $1 more, you have to lose 6.56 metric ton if you want to move to C to D, right? So if you are a policymaker, you choose A to B, but you will be probably hesitant to move from C to D, right? Okay, so this kind of exercise is relevant for the policymaker because you basically lay out policy scenario and come up with a solution, optimal solution, and also provide the trade-off between these two objectives. So something policymaker may choose to adopt this kind of quantified number. And also this product efficient we came up with is sort of meaningful in a way that focusing particularly on a single objective versus different objective may have different implications. Okay, any question?
Thank you, Professor. Actually, those who are working on the environment and its economy, sometimes in my mind it appears that the part of economical cost and the environmental degradation, considering the carbon sequestration, either release or absorption, you can make it in terms of carbon trading. Is it so, sir?
Carbon trade,
Trading?
carbon treaty.
Trading. Carbon trading. Carbon trading. So you
Trading.
Trading.
Uh-huh.
So number of industries releasing the carbon dioxide
Yes.
and the sequestration rate.
Okay.
So if you have this trading card, so if you are releasing more carbon dioxide, less sequestration,
Yes.
and in this country, if we are releasing less carbon dioxide, more sequestration, then there may be a trading.
Yes.
And I hope that you can apply this thing in carbon footprinting.
Yes.
Because in the agricultural part, I have seen so far, as well as in the industrial part, you are making this carbon footprint. The person who is in Seoul and the person who is in remote area,
Yes.
the carbon release and the sequestration is different.
Yes.
So the carbon footprint will also be different. My question is, sir, how can we calculate this carbon footprint in relation to this economy?
Okay, the first question, I don't know whether that was question or comment, but carbon trading,
Carbon trading.
using this kind of information is very relevant in a way that this information will at least set up initial pricing of carbon for each area.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say, even in the US at this point, carbon market is not as dynamic as they are hoping for, and in fact, this is just very pilot study where they're trying to come up with some kind of trading market system. So let's say,
That is through carbon development CDM mechanism.
yes, so if you have a permit, let's say the polluter, and you have,
Yes, yes.
okay, okay, so you have polluter, and you have forest landowner who is mitigating that emission, right? Observing that emission. So we try to come up with economic value of that emission at this point. This can be used as some kind of initial pricing for the market system. From that point, you need to be able to actually trade to come up with market efficient level of trading carbon market itself, right? So at this point, this is not market system. This is still some kind of NGO or government in here, like the USDA, paying and try to come up with most efficient payment with these two different objectives. And the other part you're talking, so from that point, so this is sort of baby step, and come up with, okay, which area has what kind of value and how much carbon. So you have two different information here mainly. One is how much carbon you can store, because of different geological area, different carbon, even if it's the same forest land, type of species, all this information by using the carbon simulator. And another information critical to this kind of system is opportunity cost, because even if you have same kind of carbon you can store in, let's say, very expensive area, near urban area, then opportunity cost of sustaining that forest land is very high, versus where rural area is relatively lower. So those information plus economic impact is compacted in this particular piece. But the trading mechanism you're talking about requires actual market transaction,
Yes.
right?
CDM.
Yes, some kind of a system that allows to trade between polluter versus forest landowner in this case. And you can use some kind of mechanism, whether it's blockchain or whatever kind of mechanism. We need to have some market system, which currently even in the US or EU, even Korea, they try to make some kind of trading system. At this point, it's very dismal. So one of the reasons is transparency and also identification between landowner, for example, in this case, and polluters. Those are very difficult issues. So that's one of the reasons that transaction at this point is very dismal. But someday that can happen and has to happen because budget is always limited. Just this kind of payment system has some kind of time frame. It's not going to go forever unless we come up with some kind of self-resolving market system like you're suggesting. And also footprint. The concept of footprint here is basically carbon storage. The other side of footprint, so in this case is mitigating capacity in different regions. Right? So footprint as carbon emission footprint is different concept here. So how much you can actually mitigate that carbon emission using carbon storage, right? So footprint in terms of carbon emission, we don't have it here. So that part needs to be developed where you sort of have polluters, they have some kind of carbon emission footprint, and this is basically mitigator trying to observe those emissions in different locations. The key point here is, okay, mitigator has different capacity, just like any kind of mitigator, whether that's a technological mitigator. This forest land in different regions has different capacity. And another key point here is different forest land, even with the same capacity, the cost is quite different because of different opportunity cost. So that was sort of two important points of this particular exercise.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. We have time after presentation, so we can share ideas and we can communicate after the session. Okay, thank you. Okay, great.